A University of Otago study has shown inaccuracies being made when documenting the health and weight of pregnant women. The research found that heights and weights recorded at the time of a 12-week scan differed from actual measurements. The results showed a significant number of women who participated in the study had an underreported body mass index. Dr. Helen Paterson joins us to explain what that all means. Good evening.
Good evening.
Tell us a little bit about the study and what it was actually trying to discover.
So this was a study that was done as part of a Masters of Health Science. It was done by Emma Jeffs, and she was actually exploring women's knowledge and perceptions of excess weight in pregnancy. And as a little sub-study, what she did was she took the measurements that were recorded on the 12-week scan request form, and she compared that with actual measurements taken at the time of the scan. And what they were looking at is to see whether there was a difference. We had this feeling that women's reported measurements were not going to be the same.
Why are the measurements of height and weight important in pregnant women?
Well, if you look at height and weight, what we use it for is to calculate BMI. So the three things are both important. And height and weight are used within a calculation to assess the risk of Down syndrome in the first trimester screen that's done and recommended for most women. So that's what's done at the time of the 12-week scan. And what you do is you're testing blood test results and you put that into an equation with a scan result along with a weight. And you do a calculation because the woman obviously, bigger they are, the more you're going to dilute the amount of blood result that's there. So basically, if you weigh less, you're going to have a higher level than if you weigh more because of the dilution. So if you measure an incorrect measurement, then you're going to get an incorrect result. So that's quite an important effect, particularly as it can go on and give an abnormal risk result, which would then lead on to having a further test, an amniocentesis. So that's where we take a little bit of fluid from around the baby and test whether the baby's got Down syndrome or not. And that test itself is associated with adverse outcomes, particularly miscarriage. So that's one of the reasons why it's important, because if you don't put the right weight in, we're going to get the wrong risk. But there are a few other things. So particularly, we know weight in pregnancy is important, and we know that depending on what your BMI is, will depend on what we recommend your weight gain should be. So if we calculate your BMI wrong, which in 17% of situations in our study occurred, you might, for instance, have been weighed and be obese versus overweight, and then we would be telling you to gain different amount of weight. And weight gain in pregnancy is associated with things like high blood pressure, gestational diabetes, caesarean section, if you gain more than you should be. So that's quite a big deal. And then there's a couple of other things. It impacts on one of the calculations we look at for how well a baby's growing, and it also impacts on whether you should be referred to a specialist or not. Okay. So quite a few different things.
What needs to change?
So we need to be measuring women accurately. So we need to actually stand women on a set of scales in the first part of pregnancy, and that's part of the recommendation that the New Zealand College of Midwives has as their standard care. But GPs also should be doing it, particularly if they're filling in this form, requesting the scan, and we need to be measuring height.
And you're confident that it will be resolved?
I think it's getting better already. I think we're getting the message out there and things are improving.
Dr. Helen Paterson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.